Hello again, my pals. How are you doing today on this? I was going to say this wild Wednesday. It's more of a windy Wednesday. See what else we got in store today. Crazy weather. Anyway, welcome to the Bernie Show, and I'm happy to be here as always. I'm happy and grateful for your support, and we're also pleased to be presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Thank you, DraftKings. They're sponsors of the Bernie Show here on Sports Hub STL. I'm fired up about the Blues. Another big win Tuesday night, and still thinking about that, thinking about some history, thinking about what makes this team so different, maybe than some others that have been successful. I like to always kind of tap into historical perspective. You know what I mean? And it's kind of fun to contrast some things, right? Well, before we get into that, as your St. Louis Blues are chasing history, we are definitely witnessing one of the great regular season runs in the history of this franchise. The Blues pushed their winning streak to 10 games with Tuesday's 2-1 overtime victory over Detroit at Enterprise Center. It was an exciting game. The Blues couldn't break through for the longest time, but they did just in time with Cairo scoring with seconds left, and then Cam Fowler winning it in overtime. It was just a fun game to watch, and it just continued a fun time to be a St. Louis Blues fan. Your team has zoomed far ahead of Vancouver and Calgary in what used to be a race for the second wild card in the Western Conference, and it was a good race, and there was a lot of questions. Oh boy, can the Blues, can they really close it? Can they track those teams down? Well, I think the answer to that was hell yeah, they could. But the Blues weren't content with that. Nope, they had bigger prey in sight. They marched on in their fearsome quest to get as high as they can go, to keep the good times rolling. They wanted to chase down Minnesota, and here we go. With the win last night, the Blues now lead the Wild by a point in the sprint for that number one wild card spot in the West. Now, Minnesota's got a game in hand on the Blues, but in terms of quality, both teams, their remaining schedules are about the same. More on point, and this is the big point. The Blues have been the hottest team in the league since February 8th, the best record in the league since then. But the Wild, if you go back to January the 12th, the Wild's got a record that's under 500 at 14-6-2. So the Wild's going to have a pretty dramatic turnaround to be able to kind of get past the Blues again, and then to kind of hold that space and ward the Blues off. But I think the Blues, needless to say, are in great shape to make the playoffs one way or the other. And the Blues are also kind of tracking their own history. You know, this 10-game winning binge is tied for the second best in franchise history. The other team that won 10 in a row were the 2001-2002 Blues that won 10 straight in January of 2002. I covered that team, and it was one of my favorite teams to watch. But they kind of ran into a little bit of a dynasty team in the postseason after knocking off the Chicago Blackhawks in the first round of the playoffs. Yay, we like that. The Blues of 2002 got bounced by Scotty Bowman's Red Wings in the conference semifinals. And that, you know, you look back on that and you say, well, what the heck, right? What a great team that was in Detroit. It was a memorable team. It went on to win the Stanley Cup. And that happened to be the ninth and final, the last Stanley Cup that Bowman won in his profoundly distinguished coaching career. So anyway, the record, as you probably know, but just in case, the record of 11 straight wins was established by the famous and the beloved 2019 Blues team that went on a crusade that didn't end. They didn't rest until Craig Berube's physical force of a team won Game 7 and the Stanley Cup in Boston on the glorious evening of June the 12th, 2019. One of the great nights in the history of St. Louis sports. Makes the short list, absolutely makes the short list. And I was glad for all of the older Blues fans who had waited and waited and waited and waited Well, I was happy for all Blues fans, but especially the ones that had their heart broken so many times through the decades. Um, Now the Blues are going to have to earn it if they want to get past the 2019 Blues. If the Blues want to get to 12 in a row, and it's one thing at a time. First of all, they can make it 11 in a row by beating the Pittsburgh Penguins on Thursday at Enterprise Center. Now, if they can do that, then they have their shot to get 12 in a row, and that would be the new record for the franchise. And it's going to be a tough opponent. Colorado comes in here Saturday. This has been a remarkable ride, truly a remarkable ride. It's been a wild ride. It has been an amusement park ride, so much fun. And it's hard to believe right now, but as recently as the 22nd of February, the Blues were below 500 with a record of 25, 26, and 6. Since then, they've only lost 2 of their last 19 games, and they've climbed their way up in the standings with a 16-2-1 surge. And as I mentioned, they've got the best record in the league since the 8th of February. Coach Montgomery's men have just been virtually just unstoppable because they're 17-2 since the 8th of February. And that's like kind of a rampage that they've been on. And I keep reminding you of this, but I just love tracking this game to game. In these last 21 games, 17-2-2, the Blues have scored 64% of the total goals in those 21 matchups. And they've been unrelenting in their dominance at 5-on-5 play, which I've talked about a lot, but that's probably my only mention in this video. The Blues defense and goaltending have tightened up during this blitz, and the Blues are allowing, since you go back to, you go back a ways, and they've allowed only 2.15 goals per 60 minutes at all strengths. That's number 3 in the NHL over that time since February 8th, and they're 4th in the league in goals per 60 minutes, all strengths, on that same stretch of schedule that started February 8th. It's been quite a liftoff, and it's been quite a blast. How far can they go? Well, we're going to talk about in a minute why I believe the 2025 Blues are unique and they're intriguing in comparison to other Blues teams that we talked about that have won at least 10 games in a row during the regular season. There's something about this Blues team that makes them stand out in terms of the roster. So I'll get into that in a minute. So please stay with me. But I do want to take a minute to tell you about DraftKings. Question: are you ready to win some money, real money? Are you ready to have fun? Hey, it's that time of the year when all of the major sports are rolling. There's so much to choose from, right? But at DraftKings, you love your teams. In real life, you love your teams. But at DraftKings, it isn't about the teams. You focus on the player stats to rack up those big cash prizes with DraftKings Pick 6. And that's what it is. You identify the players, you put together a team. More on that in a minute. When it comes to those big and beautiful payouts, though, I know this, DraftKings absolutely dunks all over the competition. So the Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, and Georgia, and more. You track your picks for a shot to win huge cash prizes. And yeah, it's as simple as that. I recently signed up, and it's easy. I'm going to start playing in some of the baseball competition coming up here soon. All you got to do is download the DraftKings app and open an account. You choose your sport, then you draft your players, and then you have fun, and you can get ready to win. You can turn your knowledge of baseball, NHL, NBA, college hoops, whatever's your thing, whatever's your sport. You can turn that knowledge into cash money today once you get started. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly with just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code STL Sports. That's important. Use the code STL Sports for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, thank you. And back to the Blues. Here's the reason why I find the current Blues team so exciting and so different. They're winning with a new head coach. They have a lot of new players. They have a lot of young players. And they've kind of joined the band to go with the veterans that are playing really well, in their own right. So this is a very enticing mix. And I don't know if it's accurate to say that GM Doug Armstrong has changed this team on the fly, but he's made a lot of good things happen in a relatively short time, and he's made it a lot of fun for us to watch. Yeah, there was some doubt along the way. Army be the first to tell you, or maybe he wouldn't, but he knows the deal. It's a few bad contracts there that maybe slowed him down a bit, but that Army retool, that Armstrong reboot is looking really, really strong right now, and the Blues are a virtual certainty to make the postseason after a 2-year absence from the tournament. Listen, there's nothing like postseason hockey, and I do think missing out the past 2 seasons, making the playoffs, will make the return to the playoffs even more exciting, and we'll have even more anticipation than usual because we know this team is really, really, really good, and we know they have a goaltender that's already won a Stanley Cup, and he just lifted not too long ago, as you know, Jordan Binnington lifted Canada to the championship in the Four Nations tournament. A lot of depth, a lot of talent, great coach. And the Blues are also, the thing would make it different than going to the playoffs this time. They're going to have a cast of young stars. They're going to take them into the postseason. And that's kind of new. It's kind of cool. You like to see the young bloods. You like to see a fresher cast. You like to say, hey, all right, these guys are going to have a chance to make their own mark in history, right? And here's what I'm talking about. And I'm not bombarding you with too many numbers today, but please try to listen to this one because it's a pretty cool stat. During their 10-game winning streak, 51% of the Blues goals, 51% of their 41 goals, and 45% of the assists have been logged by players that weren't on the roster at all last season, new to the Blues this season, plus Blues draftees that are no older than 24 years old. And even with all due respect, because I'm not trying to say they haven't helped the team, but the 2 24-year-olds that I referred to are depth defensemen, Tucker and Kessel. They've helped out, but they're not essential core pieces to the lineup. Now, the other guys that are making a huge difference are 23 years old or less. The Blues have been elevated by forward Zach Bolduc, age 21, forward Jake Neighbours, age 22, forward Dylan Holloway, age 23, defenseman Philip Broberg, age 23. That's some real talent there, right? And please say hello, of course, to 2 recent Blues draft picks who are now Blues rookies. They just made their NHL debut. Jimmy Snuggerud, age 20, Dalibor Dvorsky, age 19. And Snuggerud's got a chance maybe to stick and maybe even, surface in the lineup for the postseason. Too soon to tell. But Jim Montgomery showed a lot of faith in him already just by putting him on the second line for his major league debut, his NHL debut in Tuesday's win over the Red Wings. All right. The 6 current Blues. So I told you about the young guys and their part in this. Then you got the 6 current Blues who spent all of last season with other teams. Holloway, Broberg, defenseman Cam Fowler and Ryan Suter, and forwards Matthew Joseph and Radek Faksa. And my gosh, what an impact most of those guys have made. They've all helped. It's just the various degrees of magnitude. Now, the Cup-winning Blues of 2019 had some promising youths in the mix. How would Noel Picard, remember him, of course? How would he have said this? He would say, the Blues got some good youths. I like the youths on this team. Yeah, and the Blues do have good youths. The 2019 Blues had some promising youths in that mix because they had 6 players aged 23 or younger that year. Robert Thomas was a teenager, 19 years old. Jordan Kyrou was barely out of the teenage years. At age 20, Sammy Blais, Vince Dunn were 22. Robbie Fabry and Ivan Barbashev were 23. Now, though Thomas played in 70 regular season games at age 19, and he competed in 21 of their postseason contests, and he had a bad wrist and eventually took him out of it, late in the going. His talent was really obvious. But again, he was a 19-year-old teenager, and, his production, you had to be realistic about his production. His production was absolutely fine for someone that young. He did well for his age, but it's not like he rolled up some really big numbers. That's all I'm trying to say. And Kyrou, everyone was excited about him, but they were kind of breaking him in slowly in 2018-19. He only played in 16 regular season games. Fabry wasn't a factor. And we did see two other guys that were the younger Blues then. They actually helped out a lot. Blais became a third-line regular in the postseason. Barbashev was part of a thriving member of a really valuable fourth line that you all know about in 2019 in the run to the Cup. Alex Steen, Oscar Sundqvist, and Barbie, they did a terrific job and played an important role in the Blues finally winning a Stanley Cup. So what's the comparison? All right, I'm going to just ask you to listen to numbers because I think it's pretty special. The Blues with this year's team, age 23 or younger, they've made a lot more impact in 2025 than the young guys 23 and younger did back in 2019. And they haven't just been contributors, they have been major pieces, essential pieces in this dramatic season turnaround. Back in 2018-19, the six Blues age 23 or younger combined for 40 goals. Remember that number. 40 goals by six players age 23 or younger. Now, let's contrast that to this season's team. The Blues have four, not six, four lineup regulars age 23 or younger that have combined for 69 goals. That's Holloway, Bolduc, Neighbours, and Broberg. 40 goals, 69 goals, just about 20 more. And by the time the regular season ends, this group of 23 and younger players will have more than 70 goals. It's just a question of how many. But much, much more impact than that more veteran-packed team back in 2019. And as we mentioned, depending on how Snuggerud plays, it's going to be a situation where he could be a candidate for some playing time in the postseason. We're going to see. But again, I think he's an exciting addition. I also went back because, me, I got to be thorough. And I looked at the 2001-2002 Blues, who that team, as we mentioned, won 10 in a row as well. That team did not have a lot of space for young dudes. Defenseman Mike Van Ryn, who later, of course, became a Blues assistant coach and a good one there for a while. He was age 22 that season. He played in 48 regular season games, did a nice job. But among the forwards age 23 or younger back in 2002, the Blues got a combined 9 goals. From Daniel Corso and Sergei Varlamov. There's a couple names, huh? But that was it. 9 combined goals from those 23-year-old forwards. The 2002 Blues were absolutely loaded with veterans and were nothing like, in terms of roster composition, nothing like the 25 Blues. There's one similarity with the 3 Blues teams that have the only win streaks of at least 10 games. Great coaches. Joel Quenneville in 2002, Berube in 2019, Jim Montgomery in 2025. As we know, Berube and Quenneville are Stanley Cup winning coaches, though Quenneville, got those cups in Chicago. We will always be grateful to Chief Berube here in St. Louis. Love that man. And I believe Monty's time is coming. He's going to have to do better in the postseason than he's done in the past. But this is still a relatively young coach in terms of experience, and his career is off to a hell of a start. I'm going to give you the stat that I go to a lot. I'm not sure why other people in the media don't pick it up, but whatever. Among NHL coaches that have worked at least 300 regular season games in their careers, Monty's got the third best winning percentage in that group. And that's a lot of names in that group. Third best winning percentage in league history. Coached at least 300 games or more. He'll get another shot at the playoffs in a few weeks. And listen, I'll give you the way it's breaking down in terms of probability. Money Puck's got the Blues with about a 93% postseason probability. The odds are less than that. It's 83% at Evolving Hockey. I'm not sure what the difference is, but whatever. Each one's got their own metrics. But listen, this team is in great shape, and we're probably going to see defenseman Colton Parayko, who's having a dynamic season. Probably see him return from a knee injury in time for the postseason. That's the hope anyway. We'll see. But he's been making great progress, and he's ahead of schedule. Assuming the Blues qualify for the Stanley Cup tournament, it's going to happen. Assuming, though, that it does happen, it would be their 46th postseason appearance in 58 on-ice seasons. Well, what do I mean about on-ice seasons? Well, because an entire season was wiped out by a labor war between the owners and the players, and there were no games. The Blues were in existence, but there were no games. So that's why I say 58 on-ice seasons. And the Blues, once again, if they get there, it'll be the 46th time in the playoffs in 58 on-ice seasons. But the way this team has come together, this appealing merger of older Blues, younger Blues, new coach, new way of hockey too. It's exciting to think about what they're capable of doing. And that's the thing. That's why I'm excited, because it's like we've seen what they're capable of. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen in the postseason, but we know what their capabilities are, and we know that they're an outstanding 5-on-5 team, and you got to be that. You got to have that. And we know that they have a goaltender that's already won a Stanley Cup, Jordan Binnington. And I just think of the possibilities, and I think about them rolling in with this young talent, really, really upscale talent, plus with the character and the toughness and the experience and the smart heads of all these veteran Blues. It's just a wonderful mix. And I think it makes this team kind of unique. So looking forward to the start of the postseason, but I'm not taking the rest of the regular season for granted. And the hope, of course, is that everybody stays healthy and they can continue with this momentum, taking in the postseason. I know some people have said, and by the way, I get it. It's like, well, I hope they haven't peaked too soon. And, back in 2019, when Berube took his team after January 1st to a 30-10-5 record in the regular season after that turn of the year, there was a lot of talk about that too. And I probably was doing some of the talking. Well, gosh, this is great, but I hope they didn't peak too soon. Well, as we found out, they didn't peak too soon. So I hope we can say the same thing about this team down the stretch and into the tournament, right? Thank you for watching, as always. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to sportshubstl.com. You'll find my videos and columns there. You'll find the videos of the Randy Carricker Show with Brooke Grimsley, all those fantastic live stream post-game shows after every Cardinals, Blues, City, SC, Battlehawks games. It's all there. I'm so proud to be part of Sports Hub STL, and I'm really, really grateful for your support. So thank you again, as always. That'll do it for today. Looking forward to visiting with you tomorrow here on The Bernie Show. Thank you very much.